Now this is what you call a beast of a lens. Hey everyone, how's it going? Hope you're doing good. I'm doing good as always. So as I just showed you, in today's video, I'm covering the 85mm 1.2 S-series lens for the Z series of cameras. And I just want to go over my first impressions of using the lens just for a few hours yesterday down in Yokohama. So let's just jump right into it. So I'm renting this lens just for a couple of days, and when I went to pick it up at the shop, and I saw it for the first time, I was like, man, that's big. That is a big lens. But the guy at the shop was like, actually, it's not as heavy as you might think. So when I picked it up, and I was expecting a lot more weight, it was quite a surprise at how actually light it is. I'm not saying it's a light lens in any means, but when you're used to bigger lenses like this that you've used in the past, it is actually quite comparably light. I was really quite surprised in a good way. And saying that, when I had this lens on my camera on the Z9, I found it actually really balanced really nicely with the body. So I wasn't having a forward drop or anything like that. With the size of the Z9, the size of my hands, the size of me, and the size of this lens, everything worked out really nicely. It was very well balanced. In the past, maybe one or two videos ago, I was reviewing a lens from China. Found that lens to be very heavy. When I was shooting, I was saying like, oh, this is so heavy all day long. But after even a few hours of shooting yesterday in Yokohama, this weight of this lens and the balance of it on the camera really didn't bother me at all. And I was just having fun shooting. And I really didn't find myself getting tired in the arms or anything like that after a few hours of shooting. So it's really great. It's actually quite surprisingly easy to use in that way. Also, when you grab the lens, like, it doesn't feel like this is all like sturdy metal or anything like that, but it does feel very, very nice. It's very well built. The rings move very smoothly, obviously. You would hope that from a lens of this caliber and this price, but it really is like when you hold it, it feels like a nice lens. Like, it really does feel nice. And I really like the build. Everything works really, really well. So now this lens actually has an aperture ring on it here. It's very smooth. And this is something that most of my lenses that I have now for Nikon don't have. So it's something to get used to for sure. And actually, just, you know, when I was out shooting, I kind of wish I could disable it. And I've been looking for a way to disable this online, but unfortunately, everything I looked at, no one's really mentioned how to just turn this off. Because I did find like a lot of these kind of rings, very smooth, very nice, but when I'm walking around, I'm changing from 1.2 to 1.3 or 1.4 without even realizing it. And looking at the camera and the settings, I'm like, oh, okay, it's changed. I need to change it back. If anybody out there who's watching this video knows how to like disarm or turn off the aperture ring on these Nikon Z lenses, please let me know in the comments, because I've been looking online for a good like half an hour or so and I just can't seem to find anything. But it's really nice to have. It's a kind of an interesting way to shoot because you can change it and you can really see the depth of field change while you're looking through the camera, and it's really interesting that way. But it is something I'd like to be able to turn off and on, as I don't shoot quite like that yet. So now obviously one of the main features and selling points of this lens is that it's a 1.2, which is crazy. The bokeh on this is insane. I myself really like bokeh in my images, so I often use 1.4, 1.8 in the 85mm I already have, 1.4 in the 105 one that I have, and I've had some 50s with 1.4. Absolutely love it. And when shooting with this, I was not disappointed at all. The 1.2 is absolutely amazing. You can really, really separate your subject from the background. And you can, as you see in the images, things that are in focus, and they're sharp, really sharp. They're really, really sharp. But everything else just bleeds off and is nice bokeh. And it just really helps to separate your subject from the background, which is something I like to do. I like to have people really be aware of what my subject is as soon as they see the image. And using this depth of field, the 1.2, really, really helps that out. Makes it absolutely amazing. And like I said, anything that's in focus in this is sharp at 1.2. I'm really amazed. Some of the lenses I've used in the past that go down to 1.4 and things like that, when you're really wide open and you're shooting, the focus kind of gets a little muddy, it gets a little halo-ish, and I personally don't really like that. But when looking at the images I took yesterday, like even at 1.2, everything that is in focus is sharp, tacked in focus, and looks really, really good. You know, obviously the Z9 is an amazing body to shoot with, but pairing that with this 1.2 lens, you're getting sharp images like crazy. It's really, really nice. Now, saying that, there was a couple times when I just, just playing around, shot one image with these three ladies looking at this cruise boat, and at 1.2, that cruise boat is just gone. You can't even tell what is there. It's just a big blob of white. So if you're shooting anything maybe like environmental portraits, or obviously like media, or things where you actually kind of need to keep that information in the background, 1.2 might be a little bit extreme for what you're doing. I have no idea what's in the background of this image, and maybe if I wanted to keep it as a story of them seeing the cruise ship off or something like that, I might have to step it down. So it's not the the aperture to shoot everything with, but when you do want to separate your subject from the background, it does an amazing job, really pops it out. And I think for portraits and that, it's going to be absolutely amazingly beautiful lens. Now, another selling point of this lens is that it has a couple internal motors, which is helping the autofocus. And I've used these kind of like 1.2, 1.4 lenses a lot, and sometimes the autofocus doesn't really hit on very well, or it's kind of slowish. This was crazy fast. I really was impressed with how fast the autofocus was popping onto the subjects when I was shooting. A lot of times when you're out in the street, you see something, you pick it up and you try to autofocus right away, and it's a little slower than you're hoping, or you just kind of miss it because it's a little bit later than you hope. But I was really amazed at how fast this was popping onto people, getting the focus. I really didn't miss the focus on anybody at any time. The construction of this and the internal motors just makes that autofocus so fast and so crazy. When you're trying to track subjects and things like that, I think even at 1.2, this could be a really crazy lens to do for some neat action photos and stuff like that, like on bikes and things like that. So kind of want to take it out and do some action photos as well, but I just don't have time with this review. But the autofocus on here is something else. You really have to check it out, and it's really quite amazing. I was really impressed and really surprised at how fast it was. It was really cool. Now, obviously with the 1.2 autofocus and all that kind of stuff, where this lens really shines is low light. So low light portraits, shooting at night and things like that. So after putting the kid to bed and putting my wife to sleep and everything, I went out and did a little bit of shopping. I had to pick up some diapers, and I took my camera with me, and just in my neighborhood, I wandered around and took some photos and took some video as well. So yeah, like what I noticed at night with shooting this especially was it was way brighter than I expected when I was looking through the viewfinder. Kind of setting the camera on manual to something that I'd be used to, settings that I would think normally would be good for this situation. And it was just always brighter. So I could either turn up the shutter speed a little bit extra or bring down the ISO a little bit extra. And just that extra little play, that leeway, like 3 or 4 stops or so difference from my other lenses, really makes a huge difference when you're shooting at night. And the video at night, it looked really good, I thought. It was really nice. Really, the bokeh is beautiful. And I had a lot of fun just kind of walking around my neighborhood, taking a few little videos and stills last night. And I think if I was to be using this camera or this lens in my work, these are the situations where I would use it a lot, probably. A lot of the Red Bull events that I shoot are very low light. There's always really difficult situations where I can't get the most amazing images because I have to really pump up the ISO and stuff like that. This lens would really help that a lot. 3 or 4 stops, like I said, is a big difference in some situations. When you really don't want to bring up your ISO or you can't bring your shutter speed down too low. Yeah, low light situations, this is going to be killer. It'll be so awesome to use. And I use my 85mm 1.8 quite a lot already, so I'm very used to that focal length and shooting with it. So, geez, this is really tempting to sell my 1.8 and pick this up. So yeah, that's kind of just my general thoughts on the lens for first impressions. It's a great build, big lens, but not as heavy as you think. 1,160 grams sounds like a lot, but I've been holding this the whole time and my arm's not really tired at all. Bokeh is amazing, 1.2 separation from the background. It's just amazing. Obviously, it's not the aperture for every situation you're in. You might want to keep some of that background, but hey, it's artistic, it's fun. I love using bokeh, and I can't wait to get out and use this lens again today. My next video, I'm going to be pairing this lens against my 1.8 85mm lens that I have had for like a year now. It's my first Z lens, and I'm going to see if there is really a big difference, and if this is needed for me and for my work, because it is $2,700 or $2,800 right now, USD. So it is a big investment, and if I can do 99% of what I need with the 85 1.8 that I already have, that's fine. But like I said, this is a really, really nice lens, and I really wish I could use it more, but I got to take it back today. So I'll do a little bit of a photo session this afternoon, and I'll show you that video soon. So yeah, thanks for checking in. Hopefully this is helpful for you. And if you have any questions or comments, hit me up down below. Cheers, guys. Thanks a lot. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon.